Hello, my name is Wole Oguntokun. Welcome to the Storybook. The title of my story is The King of All and Nothing at All. This story is set in a time when the world was a very, very different place. There was a big city in the middle of a great land. This land had everything the people living there required. Mighty rivers full of fish for fishing, great plains full of animals for hunting, crystal clear springs overflowing with water for drinking, imposing forests with trees that bore fruits, and berries of all types. Fertile farmland where crops of yam, maize, and cassava never failed to grow, and mountains where gold, silver, and iron could be mined in great quantity. There was a problem, though. As the people had all they wanted, they never thought it necessary to elect a king. So there were no sets of laws, and therefore no judgment, no regulation, and therefore no order. Since life was easy, some had become too lazy to fetch water, or farm, or hunt, or mine. Those people felt it was easier to steal from their neighbors who did work, or become robbers on the various roads that led to and from the city, causing mayhem for many. Things were so bad, in fact, that thief was stealing from thief. The entire land was lawless. At their wits' end, the city elders decided enough was enough, and that elections should be held, where a king would be chosen to rule the land and put an end to the current free-for-all. They agreed that any man over the age of 21 from anywhere in the land would be eligible to try for election. This message was sent far and wide, so it wasn't long before scores of men, good and bad, became eager for their own reasons to rule the land. The city was virtually overrun by men who wanted to be king, and those men and women wishing to vote. Following weeks of campaigning and voting, it was a dead heat. After counting and recounting, the election seemed to have ended in a draw. Too close to declare an outright winner, the elders decided that the last two contestants would compete in a race, the champion of which will be crowned king. The decision was made known to the finalists: Ihe Ezigbo, the good, and Ihe Njo, the bad. One of the two would be king. Ihe Ezigbo was a strong, honest, hard-working man and a farmer by trade. He was well-liked in his district, known for being kind, honest, and friendly. He was now more and more admired in the city as these excellent qualities became known. He wanted to become king, to make the land safer and better for everyone. He felt as king he would unselfishly be able to serve the people. Ihe Njo was of an entirely different character. He was a greedy, lazy man whose background was unknown. Of course, rumors had been spreading like wildfire. He's a prince from another land, some whispered. He's a ghost, not human. A magician from the desert provinces, others said fearfully. The truth was, he was nothing more than a thief. He was the leader of a gang of robbers who stole from hard-working, decent people as they headed home after a long day's work. Ihe Njo basked in the entire hula baloo. The more rumors spread, the less the people would know who he really was and how he really made his money. He enjoyed being regarded as a prince or a magician. He felt these stories added to his chances of being elected king. And, unfortunately, they did. Surprisingly, many in the land had voted for him. Ihe Njo wanted to be king so that everyone would have to bow down before him. He wanted to be king so he could enrich himself at the expense of his people. He wanted to be king because he was wicked. He wanted to be king at all costs. The day before the race, Ihe Njo was in his hideout deep in the forest. Tomorrow, I shall be king, he said aloud to himself, while admiring his reflection in a mirror. Ihe Ezigbo is a much stronger man than me. His feet, much faster. But I, he continued with a wry smile on his face, I am more cunning. Who would have thought it? He began to laugh. Me, a common criminal, a thief, to be king over these fools. His confidence should not be mistaken for smugness. He will leave nothing to chance. He was going to cheat. The elders had declared that the race would start by the ancient city gate and finish on the high mountain at a place the ancestors had befittingly called Okpueze, or in English, the crown. This was a clearing at the summit of the mountain where tall trees that appeared to reach the sky had grown in a mysterious large circle. The trees had no branches on their trunks, except at the very top, from which grew the most beautiful flowers of red, blue, yellow, pink, and orange that blossomed all year round. Together, the trees really did look like a fine crown studded with ruby, diamonds, opal, and other precious stones. A crown worthy of a king. The first competitor to reach this spot would win the race. He would become king, and his descendants would rule the land forever. The course was no more than 5 miles long, but the elders had chosen a route that was pitted with obstacles, from a wide, fast-flowing river to a dense, thorny forest, from sheer cliffs to dark underground caves. Completing this course would on any day be an achievement. Ihe Njo realized that he had no chance of winning this race against Ihe Ezigbo, who, as I had mentioned previously, was by far the stronger man. So, that night, Ihe Njo had his men trek the perilous path to the summit of the mountain. On the final turn in the road, just before Okpueze could be seen, he had them dig a deep hole, then cover the hole with sticks, leaves, sand, and twigs, till it appeared as if the path was undisturbed. They dug and burrowed at their will, positive in their thinking that at that time of the night, in that place, no one would see them set about their devious task. The trap, you see, was meant for Ihe Ezigbo. In the shadows, watching the men dig was an old lady that was feared on account of her ugliness. Ihe Amu was, many said, as old as the trees in the forest where she lived on her own. Some thought she was a witch. Early the next morning, there was much excitement. It looks like everyone had turned out to see the historic race. People lined the road for miles, at least where it was safe and possible to do so. Ihe Ezigbo and Ihe Njo took their positions under the ancient city gate, the starting point. Without ceremony, except for a massive roar from the crowd, they were flagged off by one of the elders. The race had begun. Running fast along the dusty road, the men soon became hot and thirsty. So much so they were actually relieved when they came to the wide, fast-flowing river. At least that is until they got into it. Halfway across, muscles began to tire and groan from the exertion. When at last they made it across to the far bank, the two were met with shouts of encouragement from the onlookers. Now in the dense, thorny forest, the needles on the bushes tore at clothes and skin alike, ripping and gashing. Sweat seeping into the hundreds of tiny wounds made them hurt and sting till it was almost unbearable. Both kept running. The two men climbed up the sheer cliffs and traversed the dark, stifling underground caves from which, when they came out, Ihe Ezigbo was slightly ahead. Ihe Ezigbo's followers roared their approval, while Ihe Njo's faction did their best to urge him on. But instead of him running faster, he seemed to slow down. "Run all you like," he said under his breath, panting as he did so. "As fast as you can. You will not be king." Focused and determined, Ihe Ezigbo pushed himself to the limit. Every muscle in his body was complaining when at last he saw the final turn in the road. Just around that corner was the mysterious Okpueze and the finish. That thought encouraged him and he got a second wind. His body stopped complaining and he felt he was gliding along the track. That feeling didn't last long though, as suddenly it was replaced by a strange falling sensation. His world became silent. He could see the cheering crowd, but couldn't hear them. Everything happened in slow motion as he extraordinarily fell through the air. He heard a loud thud. With that, Ihe Ezigbo's senses returned. He felt a sharp, almost unbearable pain in his right ankle. Looking up, he saw people peering down at him. He had fallen into a hole. Onlookers jumped into the hole that had suddenly appeared in the road. and attempted to lift Ihe Ezigbo out. Above them, Ihe Njo carefully made his way around the mouth of the hole and ran almost casually to the finish. He was met by his supporters, who lifted him up onto their shoulders in victory. He had won the race. The elders gathered under the mysterious Okwueze in readiness to proclaim Ihe Njo the new king. From the forest that surrounded the clearing, someone was watching the goings-on with great interest. She saw a man being pulled from a hole. She saw another man cautiously pass the hole, peer into it, smile, and then run on as if this were a race. She saw people raise that man jubilantly above their heads. She saw what appeared to be elders from the city gather under Okwueze. She saw that one of the elders held a crown studded with precious stones in his hands. Ihe Amu moved as close as she could without being seen. An elder raised a hand to silence the crowd, which soon hushed in anticipation. Another spoke. Today, by decree of the elders, a race was run, the winner of which it was agreed will be crowned king, he said with great command in his voice. Ihe Njo won that race. He shall be king. But before the crowd could applaud, another voice was heard from within the forest. Stop! Ihe Amu came out of the shadows. On seeing her, people cowered back in fear. Foolish, foolish, lies, all lies, she hissed. This one, she said, pointing at Ihe Njo, no king, liar, cheat. She went on to explain as best as she could that she had seen Ihe Njo's men in the night dig the hole and cover it in order to set a trap. With what she had seen today, it was clear that the trap was for Ihe Ezigbo. Ihe Njo was not having any of it. He jumped at the elder holding the crown and snatched it from him. With both hands, he held the crown above himself and then ceremoniously placed it on his own head while shouting, I am king! A whisper of disapproval spread through the crowd, which soon turned to anger. Not our king, shouted one, and then another. Even those that had been supporting Ihe Njo joined in the chant. Not our king! Not our king! One by one, the people dispersed. Even his own men, frightened and ashamed, mingled with and lost themselves in the crowd. Ihe Amu, back in the safety of the forest and the shadows, was watching. She saw that soon, only Ihe Njo was left, crown on his head, reflecting in disbelief at what had just happened. He had crowned himself king, but it appeared he had no subjects to rule over. He was, she thought to herself, a king, but a king of all and nothing at all. And the moral of the story is this: it is not the crown that makes the king. My name is Wole Oguntokun. It's been great being with you, and I'll see you sometime, somewhere, soon.